Our next inductee tonight from Mercer University, Bibb.
Growing up in Kentucky in a small town and being recruited by the University of Kentucky and playing for Adolph Rupp at Kentucky, that had a profound influence on his life and his coaching style.
Part of a Hall of Fame has the word fame. So, stars, what's the biggest celebrity we can get and how do we make a name in things. But anytime that it has a part of contribution to the entity, so this is the ASUN Hall of Fame, that I personally don't think it would be complete without him. He presided over the merging of the New South Conference with the TAC when we added women's sports. He was there when we launched TV plans, our first website. There was just so many things that changed that as far as an overall contribution to the entity, I don't think there's anybody that has given more over time than Bibb.
He exemplifies what a college coach is supposed to be. I understand now in 2016 that all these kids have their brand and they want to get to the next level and they have all these other things. But Coach Bibb did what college is supposed to do. First of all, he made sure we was educated, we graduated. Made sure we went to class. Second, he helped us develop as young men. You're supposed to grow up and develop. When you leave college, you're supposed to be a young man. He did that. And third, we won as a team. We made it to the NCAA tournament. And for those of us who was good enough to play at a higher level in Europe or the NBA, he was a good enough coach, a great coach to get us there skill-wise. So he did everything that a college coach is supposed to do.
He was hard-nosed, and I think the players respected him for that. My first relationship with Bill actually was play-by-play announcer for the Mercer Basketball Bears in 1970. I started that program, and when Bill came in 72 or 73 as an assistant coach to Joe Dan, and then he became the head coach, and he and I would spend a lot of time on the road together. I think Coach is tough. When I first met him, I was afraid to death of him. I never had a coach that tall before that looked me eye to eye. And, we thought he was tough, thought he was mean. And after you got to know him, he was just an old softy. He had a rough exterior, but he was the nicest man. And whenever you were around, when Miss Linda, his wife, was around, and we learned that, and we used to joke with Coach all the time, and he used to admit it. He used to say, hey, I may run Mercer Athletic Department, but Linda runs home. What coaches do this day and time, they pamper kids. Bill didn't pamper anybody now. I know he left Sam Mitchell, the best player he ever coached at home one time, when we went to not to Baton Rouge, but to Shreveport to play Centenary. He and Sam had some kind of altercation. But you talk to Sam Mitchell today, and Sam Mitchell has some of those same characteristics that Bill Bibb has. He knows hard-nosed basketball. He knows how to play it, and I think he learned a lot of it from Bill. Oh, Coach Bill kicked me off the team my junior year for 2 games. And I deserved it, because by my junior year, my ego had kind of got out of whack, and I had this big head, and I was the star of the team, and I was first team all-conference. And I never forget, Bobby Pope would call me and say, Coach Bibb is thinking about bringing you on the trip, but he's got to do what's right. And it was a tough decision because it could have cost us position in the conference and a lot of things, but I learned from that. He was one of the founding fathers back in 1978 or 79, I think it was 78, in that September meeting. And he was one of the founding fathers of that, and he worked it all the way through from leaving Mercer in 1989, I guess, went to Texas Arlington, and then came back. And I hope I played a little bit of a role in getting him back to the conference. And he was a great commissioner for the Atlantic Sun Conference. It was about basketball. It was about other sports. Football was not an issue with him. Not that he didn't like football, but our league at that particular time was a basketball league, and it still is today.
I think tracing his contributions to the conference goes obviously all the way back to when it started. He was one of the founding fathers, so to speak, of the old TAC. And so it had to do with that, but the evolution of it that people don't realize, he presided over the ASUN, which it became in 2001. We changed our name. That the next 6-7 years, there was more change in college athletics as far as affiliations and new schools and changing conferences, and that his job became make sure that we're sustainable, that we have a conference. There's a lot of conferences that didn't make it through that period. And so I think his greatest contribution is he cared so much about it, he wasn't going to let it go away. And he was always 2 steps ahead of anybody else as to what we need to do.
Well, I'm probably a little prejudiced, but you know, I don't think that anybody would be sitting in a room or having an Atlantic Sun function without the involvement of my father. You know, here we are all these years later, what was the Trans-America Athletic Conference, now the Atlantic Sun, all because of his efforts. So that alone should be reason for him to be in the ASUN Hall of Fame. You couple that with the success he had as a basketball coach, you know, 2-time Coach of the Year, took Mercer to their first ever conference championship, did it again 4 years later, then migrated into administration and became a very successful commissioner. His recommendation of having the league televise games was paramount. So when you look at all the accomplishments that he had, both as an administrator, as a coach, as a founding father of the conference, I don't think there's anybody more deserving of this honor than my father, Bill Bibb.
On his behalf tonight, as you saw in the video, his wonderful wife, Linda, and his terrific son, Brad. Come on to the stage.
Greetings. I feel honored and humbled to be here tonight standing in for Bill Bibb. The preceding video was very well done. Commissioner Gumbart and staff, thank you so much for the memories. Bill's basketball and commissioner experiences were chronicled by a former employee and successor, a former player, NBA player and coach, a longtime colleague and friend, and our son, Brad Bibb, who knew him as a father and as a coach. I intend instead to speak about what my heart knows about Bill Bibb. Although I was Bill's biggest supporter, basketball was not an enjoyable sport for me because I was always nervous. Each win or loss meant so much, like keeping your job, bringing home the bacon. Neither was it easier to be the mother of a son playing for Bill Bibb. Although I kept my comments to myself and never took sides, it was hard to refrain from saying, "Why don't you play our son more?" Tension sometimes filled the air, but we got through it. When Bill left athletic directorship, I asked him, "Do I ever have to go to another basketball game?" I did go, of course, to the Final Four, especially when Kentucky was involved. I loved my life with Bill Bibb, and our life was filled with adventures and many memories. Robert Browning said, "Ah, but a man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what's a heaven for?" As for Bill's tenure with Attack ASUN, Bill's reach always exceeded his grasp. He no sooner finished one goal than he was pursuing the next one. I was sometimes jealous of Attack ASUN and the attention he lavished on them. This honor tonight being bestowed upon him would have been the penultimate moment. Although he is a member of the Georgia Hall of Fame, as well as the Macon Hall of Fame, the ASUN Hall of Fame would have been the one of which he would have been most proud. Our family, Brad, Lexi, and Sarah Denton. Lexi and Sarah Denton, stand up so everybody can see how beautiful you are. My family and I thank you for honoring him in this special way. It is my hope that some way, somehow, he can feel, intuit, the respect and admiration that go out from here tonight. As for Bill and his condition, he looks the same, but he doesn't act the same. Gone is the bravado, his posture, his ability to carry on a conversation. Excuse me. Of course, we all know Bill spoke English and profanity. The profanity continues. But without it, he wouldn't be Bill, would he? I was able to care for him at home for 2 years. When this became impossible, I had him moved to a facility which is an upscale continuing care institution. I, too, have moved there to be close to him. He remains my Bill, and I have ceased questioning why dementia, why us. I try to practice instead Dr. Seuss's advice. Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. I am slowly striving to cherish and celebrate the life we have had, just shy of 50 years. On Bill's behalf, thank you again so much for this recognition. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I don't know how to follow that. The reason I didn't play more is because I had to guard guys like Willie Jackson, and I couldn't do it. So congratulations, Willie, Cindy, and the other nominees, recipients tonight. It's bittersweet for me because he's the one that should be up here. But if you ever heard him public speak,
it would probably be a pretty long evening. I'll be a lot shorter. We appreciate the honor tonight. We're thankful that we're here, and we appreciate what the Atlantic Sun has meant to our family. It's almost 40 years now since he first had the idea to try to start a conference. He understood the importance of it when Mercer was an independent back in the mid-'70s of getting into a league, and he knew that that's what they needed to do. So he was able to help spearhead the effort to get it started and eventually become commissioner, and I know that was one of his most proudest achievements. So thanks again for the honor. We're very humbled. We appreciate it, and thank you again very much.
Another round of applause for the Bibb family.